Hey guys, here's another Land and Elf battle report. Coming to you with a Brawler Bash rehearsal game. It's a grand tournament on the East Coast that's coming up in mid-March. Here's a kind of a unique scenario that's going to happen at that tournament. It's basically there's a mountain chimera in the middle of the board, and you get some additional victory points for killing it or doing the most wounds. Additionally, you can get points for keeping your opponent out of your deployment zone or getting fortitude into their deployment zone. Here's my end times cane list. It's kind of unique. There's some unique comp going on with Brawler Bash. If you want more information on that, you can check out the Brawler Bash website. I think it's atomicempire.com. But this is my list. I have a level 4 medal, a Glade Captain with the Hail of Doom, a Spell Singer on Heavens, a couple of Death Hags, and those Death Hags are going to go into my 2 hordes of Swordmasters and Wildwood Rangers to just generate a bunch of attacks. A couple units of Glade Guard, a couple units of Dark Riders, some Wild Riders, and a Frost Phoenix. And to take the Frost Phoenix due to comp, I have to take a Tree Man. This is my list. Alright, here's my right flank. I believe after Vanguard, I have 10 Hagbane archers behind that building. Wild Riders, Dark Riders, the Frost Phoenix. I got that's not my free forest. I just happen to get a forest in that section. You don't get a forest in cane lists, of course. Those are some Wildwood Rangers with a Death Hag and my BSB, and then behind that is a unit of Glade Guard with the level 4. Here's my left flank. I have some Dark Riders on the far left, some Glade Guard with my level 2, more Wild Riders, Tree Man, and then Sword Masters with another Death Hag. And my spells, they actually don't do a whole lot. I do get Final Trans, Ice Shard Blizzard, and a couple of dinky metal spells. I don't get a whole lot of magic off this game, so I'm not going to worry about telling you about it. As you can see in the middle of the board, that's a Hydra. That's going to be our Mountain Chimera for this game. Here's my opponent's deployment on my right. Those are a bunch of zombies, 2 spirit hosts, and then he has a vampire on the Coven Throne. I think it has a great weapon and a ward save, so it's pretty bad news little unit. He's got about 37 Grave Guard with a Blender Lord in it. Behind that is some more zombies with a level 4 Necromancer and a Corpse Cart. On his left flank, he's got a couple of units of Dire Wolves. I think there's also a unit of Dire Wolves vanguarding over on the far right of the board. That's about 47 Crypt Ghouls, I think. I think they're just there to take up his core points. And then 2 Terrorgeists behind that building. And here's just an overarching shot of the whole battlefield, or most of it anyway, to get an idea of what happened after Vanguard. Not a whole lot. I did Vanguard my Dark Riders and Wild Riders to the left forward a little bit, which ended up being a mistake. So we'll see what happens with that. Alright, he got first turn after I knocked off his Charm Shield with my Arrow of Kernoi, so that was hilarious. But he, of course, moves forward aggressively. And in case you didn't notice, my Frost Phoenix is missing because he Pit of Shaded it. And because of the huge Phoenix base, he scattered but still hit it, and I failed my 3 initiative. So that was great. He also managed to scream off 5 wounds from the Mountain Chimera with his Terrorgeist. Terrorgeist are just great in this scenario because the Mountain Chimera has leadership 6. Otherwise, everything else just pushes real forward, and that's about it. On the left side of the table, that Terrorgeist goes over and screams off a couple of Wild Riders, but I'm okay with that. At least I got 4 left. He actually double charges my Dark Riders, and this was one of the smaller mistakes I made in this game. But he charged them, and I Vanguarded forward a little bit, and he chose not to Vanguard, so he just had a pretty long distance charge. But those dogs are just really fast, so he double charged them, and I did manage to hold though by. I think I had to make like a leadership 7 break test, so got pretty lucky right there. Alright, after my turn, I get aggressive. My Swordmasters failed their Frenzy test, because as you know, Witch's Brew makes you have Frenzy, but it's -3 to leadership on Frenzy test, so I failed it twice, even with the BSB, and had to charge the Terrorgeist. I also went ahead and charged the Wild Riders in as well, just to, make sure I finished it off, and I burned through it no problem and overran and got into those Crypt Ghouls, so I'm pretty happy with that. I only got 1 spell off this turn, and it was of all spells, it was I think Glittering Robes on the Swordmasters. So that ended up being really, really smart because the Crypt Ghouls now are going to be hitting a 3-up armor save with Strength 3. So I'm in a really good position over here. I also kill a couple more dogs and hold with my Dark Riders again. So pretty happy with this side of the table. On this side of the table, I didn't really get a whole lot done. A lot of really bad shooting. I shot just like 30 or something shots into a Spirit Host, didn't kill it. Got really frustrated and used the Hail of Doom arrow on it and still didn't kill it. So that was just one bad decision after another. I'm worried that he's going to charge my Wild Riders at this point, as you can see there at the bottom left of the screen, and I think he may have my flank here. And if he gets into those Wild Rider flank, they don't have magic attacks anymore. He could literally hold them up for a very long time. The Dark Riders run over and start shooting at some wolves that are just off screen, trying to prevent them from getting into those Glade Guard in that building. Alright, back to his turn. Left side, I am whittling down those dogs. I have them down to 1 dog. So go Dark Riders, man. There's very, very happy with them. And I've eliminated 2 of his chaff units even when they charged me. So that's awesome. The Swordmasters with the Glittering Robes make short work of the Crypt Ghouls. They do like 43. They kill like 43 of them after Crumble. I think there's 3 left right here, which is why I haven't been able to reform. But I'm outside of the Terrorgeist line of sight, and those Crypt Ghouls will be killed shortly thereafter. On the right side of the table, my opponent actually makes probably only one of like 2 mistakes he makes this entire game. He sends the weak Spirit Host into the Glade Guard in the tower instead of charging the Wild Riders. I guess what he was trying to do is he was trying to get trying to take a stand and shoot with it so that these other Spirit Hosts could get in there. And it was a pretty good plan. Spirit Host actually does pretty well versus Glade Guard in combat, but I think he really missed a good opportunity to shut down Wild Riders for several turns. So he charges, I stand and shoot and kill it, and his other Spirit Host gets in with a unit of dogs, but the Glade Guard are able to kill enough dogs to eject the Spirit Host out. So he shouldn't have charged with the dogs either. So kind of a couple of mistakes here. They're minor, but I think they really come back to bite him later in the game. Otherwise, I think he actually tried to charge versus the Wild Riders with both his Coven Throne and his Horde, but both failed. So I'm okay with that. All right, this is back to my turn on the left side. I finish off those Crypt Ghouls no problem and go ahead and reform. Those Wild Riders also kind of get into a position of trying to line them up to charge that Corpse Cart. That Corpse Cart's actually very annoying because, it gives all of wizards within 24 inches a -1 to cast. It also can do some pretty fun buffs and give things always strike first that shouldn't have it. The Dark Riders are still working on that 1 dog, and otherwise not a whole lot going on over here. On the right side, I was able to eject the dogs out, and so this turn I went ahead and just killed the Spirit Host with basically a bunch of point blank shots from Glade Guard. So that was nice. I moved the Dark Riders up to try to bait a charge from the Coven Throne. Because I really don't want that. The Coven Throne actually has a really long range, just like movement 8 or so with Swift Stride. I really don't want it declaring long bomb charges on my Wild Riders, because if he gets one off, they're just going to die. So I get them in position to bait a charge out, and for like the 3rd time in a row, I can't get Final Trans off. I'm spamming 6 dice at Final Trans, and he's either dispelling it, or I'm just not rolling enough on 6 dice, which is really frustrating. So again, literally no magic help from this game. Here's just another larger shot of the battlefield on this side so you can get an idea of where everything's out. That Corpse Card is just spamming buffs and knocking my wizard level down, so it's got to go. It's really getting annoying. Alright, on his turn, my Dark Riders finally kill off the dog, with leaving only 1 guy left, so that's great. As you can see, he turns his Corpse Card around to, I don't know why he doesn't try to break for it. I guess he knows he's kind of stuck, and he's kind of just bracing for impact, because he knows those Wild Riders are about to eat its lunch. Alright, just as I planned, his Coven Throne takes the bait, charges the Dark Riders, and I make a really good flee, and manage to avoid, triggering any panic by hitting anybody. So I just a perfect move. A lot of times fleas go horribly wrong, but this one worked well. I fled, he failed charge, he I think I had backed up the Wildwood Rangers on my last turn, and he tried another long charge with his Grave Guard, and I again didn't make it. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to just stretch out the game as long as I can so I can get a final trans off on those Grave Guard, because I don't really know how a combat with my Wildwood Ranger horde versus his Grave Guard horde would go. I know I kind of have the advantage, but the Blender Lord is just so brutal that I really want to get those models down in that Grave Guard unit before I commit to combat with it. All right, here I kind of position myself for the Master Stroke, and in case I don't think I mentioned it before, but that Terrorgeist earlier had screamed off the last couple wounds of the Mountain Chimera, and so he scored a bunch of points, like 500 points right there. However, in retaliation, I dumped all of my shooting into that Terrorgeist and was able to knock it off between poison and crossbows and truth lights. I was able to knock it off completely. So that's great, but I think my opponent was okay with scoring the 500 points with it. All right, this is back to my turn, and I pretty much line up my Master Stroke. I charge the Coven Throne with the Wild Riders, and they I am able to get a wound or two on it, but I can't really do enough to crumble it. I put the Dark Riders that rallied in the way of the Horde, so I'll buy myself another turn to try to get a final trans off. Spoiler alert, I don't get one off this turn, and then I line up my Swordmasters for a brutal flank charge next turn. I don't have a picture of my opponent's turn. He gets, I'm sorry about that, he gets a Curse of Years off on my Swordmasters and depletes them pretty bad. But otherwise, he really just charges the Dark Riders and makes short work of them, and reforms for to prepare for a fight with the Wildwood Rangers. The Coven Throne kills off the Wild Rider, and reforms ready for some action. So anyway, this gets finally back to my turn. I'm able to charge his Wizard Bunker with the Tree Man, and I fail a bunch of frenzy charges and go all hellbent into his Vampire Lord's Graveguard unit. So I really was wanting to wait another turn. There's really no reason there's no reason to want to charge with these units because they're just as good off the charge as they are with it. So I wanted one more turn to final trans, but the failed frenzy check just made me have to commit everybody. So I went ahead and went for it. There was no reason to worry. I got a transmutation of lead off onto his graveyard unit, which made them weapon skill 2. So, but it ended up not mattering. I ended up killing like 36 Graveguard just in attacks. He kind of made his second mistake of the game by accepting a challenge from my Swordmaster champion with his Blender Lord. I guess he wanted to. I guess he knew he could generate a bunch of combat res that way, but he would have been better just to, I guess, kill some regular guys. I don't know why he accepted that. But anyway, I make short work of him. The Blender Lord scores a bunch of combat res, but ends up crumbling like 20 or so, and just ends up popping. The rest of his army crumbles, but he still manages to keep those zombies and that Coven Throne alive. So this was kind of the Master Stroke turn. It just pretty much ended the game, but for practice purposes, we continued. Ever the good sport, my opponent continued playing. He went ahead and charged his Coven Throne that had managed to kill 2 units of Wild Riders already into my Tree Man. Does a couple of wounds. I think he gets off a buff on it too, and really comes and tries to save the day and score some points. But luckily, my Tree Man's stubborn and holds on his Leadership 9 while killing some zombies. All right, here's the final picture of the game. I'm sorry it's so blurry, but the Wildwood Rangers go ahead and just charge in and just kill tons and tons of zombies, and the crumble carries over to the Coven Throne and pops it. So at this point, he has no models left on the table, and game's over. So we go ahead and count them up. Final score was 38-75 to 12-46. The Elven host wins. Now, sidebar, the Brawler Bash comp actually reduces end times list victory points by 200 points, so I would actually have a 36-75, but in this case it was really not relevant. Final thoughts, I learned that I got kind of frustrated that I could not get a final trans off because my list really kind of relies on it to help whittle down hordes, but I cast it every turn and just could not get it off. He either dispelled it, or I didn't get enough dice off, or he dispel scrolled it. So that was really frustrating. But it's really kind of a lesson. Don't ever rely on one spell. I know a lot of lists have to, like Bretonians and things like that. But if you have an option, don't over rely on one, and uh, have other plans. And luckily, my hordes were self-sufficient to kill their way to victory without having Final Trans help them. But had I been reliant on that spell, I would have lost. Um, Also, my opponent really had no answer for elves with great weapons or anything like that. Any high strength, high initiative. Um, all of his stuff hit was really good units like the Grave Guard and the really big unit of Crypt Ghouls and things like that. But and even the Terror guys, they just could not hold up to the elves with great weapons because they always got to go first, even without rerolls. They were able to just mow them down. And when my opponent got attacked with his Crypt Ghouls, he had 3 marbles left, and with his Grave Guard, he had 1. So it's it's hard to win when none of your models are alive to attack. And finally, I felt bad for my opponent. I mean, I had some good luck here, but Vampire Core is really, really weak. It's really hard to use it well. Dire Wolves are good, and so are zombies, but there's only so many uses for them. You really need things that can score points, and in a game that relies, and in a tournament that completely relies on victory points to progress, your core with vampires are going to be dead weight, and it kind of really makes you want to take a legions of the undead list. But hopefully my opponent will have an opportunity to look at his list and change it. But anyway, thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you next time.